How did you start out being an IGL?
I think it would be same for all the IGLs. Someone has to take responsibility. I didn't choose IGLing. IGLing chose me.
What would you say to other people? Maybe they're even tier 2 at this point, right? They have some grounding. How can they go about getting to the point where they can call really well?
Saying work hard is cliche, but work hard. Know that you are worse than the others. I'm an IGL that never saw an IGL. I'm trying to find my path, find the path. But after this generation, after my generation, I can see a guy and tell him that what I know.
So I guess the best place to start for me is kind of how did you get into being an IGL of all things, right? Like starting playing is one thing, but how do you actually start out being an IGL?
I think it would be like same for all the IGLs. Like someone has to take responsibility, and like you had to be that guy, and like IGLing chose you, Like in another interview, I literally said that I didn't choose IGLing. IGLing chose me,
So it was just kind of someone had to do it in the team, and
Yeah,
it just happened to be you.
yeah.
What do you think?
All of a sudden.
What do you think it is that? Why do you think it was you?
I mean, I don't know. Like I saw the player group, and like I told myself that you have to be the most responsible guy in that team, Like to IGLing, you need to work really hard, and you have to be above everyone else in your team in about working really hard. And in that team, I think it would be only me. So I said, let's go, I'm IGLing, and that's how all started.
I actually don't know much about you. How? So first of all, is your name pronounced Souchni? Is that how it's pronounced?
Honestly, I don't know.
Where does it come from? I'm interested to know. I'm interested to know.
It's just random letters.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's just random
doesn't
letters.
mean anything. Yeah.
That's that's the first time I've heard someone say that. It's just like, yeah, I just kind of like rolled my hands on my
Yeah,
keyboard and just saw what came out, and that was
yeah, exactly. It
so.
doesn't mean anything, but it looks like means anything, like something. Yeah,
It does. It looks like it like has some really deep meaning,
yeah.
or it's from an anime, which I think that's quite common these days. So what was the first game that you played? Did you play CS before you played Valorant?
I mean, I played, but not as professional. Like I was really low tier in CS, as rank, I was really bad.
So how did you get to where you are in Valorant?
Because of the pandemic situation, like uh, I had to be at home, and Valorant came up, and I played the game, played it, and suddenly I look where I'm at now. It all started suddenly.
This is where I show my ignorance and tell you that I haven't looked like right back in your history in VLR. So what was the first team that you were part of? Have all the teams you've been on been primarily Turkish teams?
About Orgless teams, I played in EU first to learn the game a lot. So like I rejected the Turkish offers at the beginning, and I played Orgless at EU with maybe Alarante, Amilva, and
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
And we had really good time there, and I learned the game there. And after that, Fireflux called me to be their IGL for the team, and that's how all started. Like that's how I became professional.
I see. I see. And what happened? Tell me about last season.
Well, last season, I mean, we did what we could do. Like I have no regrets about last seasons, and like I mean, we could do much better, but like because of the situations, I think we did what we could do best, and I'm happy about that.
Hmm. Yeah, because it wasn't like I'm trying to remember where you finished with BBL. It
7th
wasn't.
place.
Yeah, so it wasn't like in my mind like Heretics and KC were a complete car crash, and BBL
Yeah,
felt like you had obviously there was something there, but it just didn't quite
yeah.
flourish like I think some teams did towards the end of the season. Like Vitality, I think they had quite a rocky start, but they kind of had a real come up as the season went on.
Every team in that league had their momentum in somewhere at the
Mm,
schedule, like Vitality had at the start, we had at the middle, and
mm, mm,
some teams at the late schedule.
mm. So, what did you learn from that season in VCT?
What did I learn? This is actually a great question. Like
Mm,
I think I learned that like between me and the top tier IGLs, there's no much like there's no big gap,
mm,
Like last season, I learned that like I could be better than them.
mm.
I am better than many of them, and that's what I learned. Back then, I was looking up them, like I was telling guys are best and etc etc. But when we were on the server, like I could read them, and that gave me confidence.
It's interesting you say the last. So I did an interview. Well, it would have been the last episode before this, but for me it was this morning, talking with RRQ's coach, and he was saying how sometimes we make the mistake of looking at the teams above us or the players above us and think like, they're gods, they're superhumans. Like Fnatic, I think are like a great example of that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, exactly.
they seem like they're so far ahead, but they are only human,
Yeah,
and it only if you're already at that level, it's only a little bit of hard work to kind of make that step to
yeah,
the next
exactly.
level. So, given that, if you feel like kind of your cooling ability is at that level, why do you think? Well, I guess why did BBL let you go? I guess is the question.
It was my own decision. Like
Okay.
I, I don't want to go really deep about that,
Yeah,
but
of
like
course.
we had some problems with the org. I needed some things to change, and they tried to change it, but they couldn't do many things,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
we decided to part our ways.
mm-hmm.
It was mutually agreed, but yeah,
So, are you happy to go back to Fireflux, kind of
yeah,
where you
exactly,
started?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
and play in Fireflux playing in the Turkish VCL, right?
yeah,
So I guess the goal then is to win the whole thing, right? And to go for Ascension next time around,
yeah.
which is definitely
Not just go
possible.
for going for Ascension. Like we're gonna be partners. I'm pretty sure about that. Like
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
yeah, I'm confident.
Fireflux are definitely one of the biggest orgs in Turkey, right? I mean, they're very,
Yeah,
very well known in Europe generally as well. So it would be really nice to see that.
yeah,
Has your
hopefully.
whole roster been announced?
Yeah,
And how do you feel about the roster that you have now? This is again where I show my ignorance of the Turkish scene because it's interesting. Like, I guess I have to make this point for like people's context that maybe aren't in EU, but I feel like the Turkish scene alone is just massive, and
yeah,
it's like really hard when you're following so much of the like I say European scene. I feel like Turkey's part of that scene, but it's like Turkey in itself is almost like its own mini region because there's so many players and so many really talented players. So how do you feel about the roster that you have now?
I mean, I'm really happy about my roster. Like, uh, if you think it's a dream team, but like
Mm,
we need to be really be careful about that.
mm,
Like
mm,
every dream team has their own problems, and like we know that we are a dream team right now. Like the
mm.
names are really good, but we cannot just let go of the teamwork. We need to develop many things, and we're currently like trying to improve on that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have the kind of like Apex, right? I think Apex are a great example of a dream team that go all the
Yeah,
way and then the game that matters, right? The one game that matters, the Ascension game, then you don't show up. And I think, yeah, it's really about showing up on the day.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let's really get into it, I guess, right? So you kind of got this, you got a fresh team for yourself. You think we've got a lot of things going for you. Where'd you start? As an IGL, what's the first thing that you want to do with the team?
But the team, like talk about the game, like not as theory, like just talk. What do you think about the game? What do you think about, let's say, us and let's say Bind, to ask them and get to know how do they feel about it, and
Mm,
uh, forward them in a way with my questions to think like me,
mm,
if
mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's what I try to do at the beginning.
Okay, and then what?
Then some basic things, and like we had 2 weeks in the gaming house recently. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just back home yesterday, I guess, and like we tried to bond with each other. That was the first thing that we did as team, and we did
Mm.
pracs and all of
What
that.
kind of stuff did you guys do?
Like, for example, after every pracs, we went to get some coffee and like chill a bit with the team, and like whatever we did as team for whole 2 weeks.
Mm.
Like literally, if anyone wanted to go, let's say, drinking coffee, everyone would go. That
Yeah,
was really great.
I think it's people again like they understate the importance of these things. Like how much progress do you feel like you've made in those 2 weeks as a team?
Really a lot. Like better than my old teams. Like
Mm,
in, let's say, in one team I was there for like 1 year, but I never bonded this well.
mm. Yeah, so I really want like kind of your advice for people to like because you started out and you hadn't really been that great at CS like you say you didn't have a lot of experience to draw on. How did what would you say to other people? Maybe they're even tier two at this point, right? They have some grounding. How can they go about getting to the point where they can call really well?
Like saying work hard is cliche, but like work hard. Know that you are like worse than the others from tier ones, and
Mm,
if you embrace it like you're a bad player, you need to develop yourself. You need to improve.
mm,
Like I'm not saying break your confidence or anything else, but like know that you're not, like, this is not enough for you, and try to get above the limits. Work really hard. If you cannot focus after working 3 hours, just try to go above the limit. Work for 4 hours, 5 hours. I don't know. Like,
mm.
just don't care about the limits. That's all I can say.
What kind of things would you do when you say work? I mean, like we get the general idea, like a
Yeah.
fond review, but I mean, how do you approach it now? Kind of with the experience that you have, how would you? What advice would you give to yourself? Starting out.
Right now, it's all about IGLing, like vote reviewing my team, like watching the other team's votes and like stealing strats and like copying them or something like that. But like back then, when I didn't know anything,
Mm.
I played like third party aim trainers and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I played all the, like I played every third party aim trainers, and I played the game really hard, and I also watched a lot of professional gameplays, and like you cannot just go on some ranked matches and say like, oh, I killed these bots and I'm great
Mm.
player right now. You need to watch other players, how they make decisions, when
Mm.
they make decisions, stuff like that.
What kind of things do you look at when you're doing? I mean, do you? It's interesting. The more I talk to players, the more I feel like people just like watch games and just kind of assimilate the info, just like to take the information in. Do you write notes? Is there anything particular that you look for? If you're looking at a game, how do you watch it?
It depends, like, because some games I analyze them because I have match against them in like 1 week. But
Mm,
some
mm,
games I see a really good comp, which I never thought about it. I try to understand it, like how do they
mm,
play in the
mm,
in general gameplay. mean, it depends. Like, yeah, that's all I can say.
And when it comes to like IG, I guess it's more difficult as well. I guess as an IGL because you're not only looking at the whole team, but also, well, what do I need to do in that comp? But also, what does my my smokes need to do in this comp? What does my flashes need to do in this comp? What does my duelist need to do in this comp? And kind of thinking about the kind of the general play style of the whole composition, right? Which is, I think, makes it challenging. How much time do you actually get to spend on your own stuff? Is most of your time spent thinking about the team rather than
Yeah.
yourself?
Like I barely have time to play 2 rankeds or 3 rankeds. Yeah. Like, I can't even meet with my in real life friends outside
Mm.
like once in a week or something. You know?
Do you find that that's a problem? I mean, do you worry about that you can't focus on your own gameplay?
If it's a really long term thing, yeah, it's a problem. But
Mm.
since we're a new team right now, I mean, this has to be, I need to
Mm,
work
mm,
really
mm.
hard for my team and to get them into the same page.
Is it most of the stuff you're doing now? Is it VOD reviewing your own team and saying, "Okay, I don't like how you do. I think you should do this like that because that's my idea for the round," or is that most of what you're doing now? Or is it still a lot of scouting for opponents?
No, right now I'm not doing scouting for my opponents. Like I'm focused on my own team with my
Mm,
coach, and
mm,
we try to develop our improve our team, and that's basically what we do. What we like. I told you to do that. Maybe I did say it wrong.
mm, mm.
Maybe you didn't understand, but I meant this and etc.
Yeah. Do you spend any time one on one with other players on your team?
Yeah, mostly
So,
one on one.
you're actually kind of, in some ways, almost taking a role as a coach.
No, like I don't want to say I'm stealing coach's job.
No, that's not what I
Yeah.
mean. But I mean, I think a lot of IGLs wouldn't necessarily do that. I think sit down with people one on one, and
But
I think it's incredibly beneficial to do that. That's why I
yeah,
think it's interesting, because I know that there are people that wouldn't do
yeah.
that or wouldn't have even thought to do that. So how?
Because like we play we
No, you can't.
play my mind, like we try to show the people that what SouchNi thinks,
Mm,
and
mm,
we we need to be on the same page because of that. Maybe my coach would see a problem in the WOD review and go talk to one on one with the player, but
mm,
he could never tell what I would think.
mm,
So
mm,
it's better if I just go say, "Hey, bro, this round, this happened. Don't do that."
mm. How much of a balance is there between you and your coach in terms of decision making and kind of making strats?
Uh, it's right now. It's more about me trying to implement on the server, and he tries to develop things outside the server. And right now we're playing my mind. I'm trying to make the strats, make the game plan,
Mm.
uh, and yeah,
Are you actually writing a strat book yourself? Are you writing the strat book, or is
we
it
both do
together? Yeah, yeah.
together.
Okay, interesting. When you, how do you approach kind of building strats? How much detail do you go to when you like to design them? Do you like to be very scripted, or do you like to talk more generally about how you would like your team? Like say, okay, we're going to take hooker, then we're going to do, rather than saying you have to use this util. I want you to take this space. What's kind of your approach? How do you balance that?
It actually depends. Like some teams, you need to be really structured in Turkey because people
Mm, mm,
cannot like improvise things, like naturally. But
mm,
in some teams, you can just say, "Are we taking this uh, map, this part of the map," and everyone would know which utility they would use. But
yeah.
it really depends on the team. But in Turkey, mostly you need to be really strict IGL, or you have to be
Mm.
micromanaging everyone in the server.
Do you find that's a problem?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
micromanaging is really big problem.
How do you? So I guess that's an interesting one. So how do you think that players in Turkey kind of generally, based on what you've just said, how do you think they need to develop themselves?
I mean, it will be develop with time, but like
Of
peop
course.
from all the teams I've been in, like the problem that I saw with the Turkish players are they need to think that, oh, this guy, my IGL said this, and I need to improvise it, improve it with this ability, with this call. Like I
Mm.
said, for example, on us set, I said A split, but he needs to say that, oh, okay, you guys go, I'm making pressure at B, and they cannot rotate faster, you know?
Mm.
Uh, that's a big problem in Turkey, but yeah, right now I think it's improving with time in the Turkish scene.
It's were there not many players that played CS in Turkey? Do you think? I guess where do you think this kind of problem comes from? Because I think obviously in EU there's a lot of people with experience from previous games. Do you think that's part of the problem in Turkey, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, in another interview I said that like the FPS
Mm.
culture in Turkey currently under development, so
Mm.
you can't expect much more of that. For example, I'm an IGL that never saw an IGL, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Like
yes, it totally
I'm
makes sense.
yeah, I'm trying to find my path, find the path, but maybe after this generation, after my generation, I can see a guy and tell him that what I know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. So,
that,
what do you think? What do you think you're going to be telling him?
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's very interesting because Turkey has a very unique style, I think, because of this as well, right? The approach to the game is different because of
Always
the
aggressive.
different experience, right? Yes, exactly, right. I guess, and how do you feel about that kind of style?
About the aggressive style?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say it's like it's not aggressive in the same way that Asian teams are aggressive, right? If you watch the best teams in Asia, I wouldn't say, from my experience of playing against Turkish teams, I wouldn't say that aggression is the same. It's
yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean. I feel like
yeah,
Turkish aggression can be a little bit, for lack of a better word, a bit. This is not very well thought out sometimes, right?
yeah,
So just like we'll just go.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas like the Asian teams maybe have thought about it a little bit more, maybe. So I guess how do you feel about that kind of style?
I mean, if they thought about it, it would be really nice, like
Mm.
Asian teams,
Yeah.
like you said. But like, it's in my opinion easier to think about an aggressive thing than a defensive thing. Like they don't want to think much more things. They want to only to think that if I use this utility, I can maybe kill them.
Mm.
That's their win condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the game is not about that. The game is more about like abusing the enemy rotation. When you're at CT, like defender side, abusing like telling enemy team to go A, go B, and be there. But I don't think many Turkish players think about this because it's easier to not think about this.
I think what you said is actually a gold mine. I mean, I think that's such an important point, right? I think often people, this isn't just Turkish teams, I think this is generally that people don't consider what is the win condition. And the two
Yeah,
things you described is probably the majority of the time. It's either we're abusing the rotates, right? Either they're too slow or they've left a gap. And on attack, it's like, yeah, and on defense, it's like, okay, I'm going to stack this side, but you're going to think I'm stacked on the other side. You walk into the stack, we've got a setup, we
yeah,
win.
yeah.
How do you so? And do you think that mentality is starting to change over time? Because having practiced Turkish teams, MENA teams as well, I think kind of have a similar approach sometimes. I definitely think this is. Do you think it's something that's changing? In my experience, I feel like it's something that is slowly changing over time. But I guess what's your experience of it?
Yeah, I think like the names are changing, so it's changing right now in the Turkish scene. I see more structured things, but still it needs to develop. Like maybe for me as well, maybe for for my team as well. But like as in general, I think it's currently developing. Like I said, culture is building up right now, and I don't think we did see the best names in the Valorant from Turkey yet. Like Alfajer is a great example. He came from nowhere, you know, and I know that there's many of people, like a lot of people in Turkish scene that could do a lot of things. Like yeah.
One of the coaches that I worked with in the past, that no one will know because we worked on a team that kind of fell apart, but really probably one of the smartest people that I've worked with, really understands the strategy of the game. Kanturk's his name, and it's interesting because he has such deep knowledge, and he's also an exceptional player as well. And it's interesting that there must be other people like him out there that really have this kind of level. You know, he's a great player, although he was a coach when I worked with him, but I could see him being a professional player. Absolutely, it's it'll be interesting to see kind of more of these people come out. I guess we've talked a little about maybe kind of the bad side of the Turkish team, but on the Turkish teams, but on the other side, I think there's so many people with so much firepower. If they could just start to think, then they could be really, really, really good. Why do you think that the firepower is so good in Turkey? I mean, I don't know if it's just like we just see it, but it feels like it's more than just like, you know, it's more than just like kind of randomness. It's like it definitely seems like Turkish players are particularly good at shooting.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess it's a God's gift. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, but I see that every Turkish player, like, maybe as team, they don't work really hard about theory and about micro things, all that kind of things. But from what I saw, like they really work really hard for their aims. I tell you that, like, they're not joking about that. Every time they play ranks, they play 10 DMs, they play third-party aim trainers and all of that things from every day, and like we have a great example ahead of us, Zatares, and I know that many young people admires him from how he practiced back then, and they try to replicate him in some way.
Yeah, what advice would you give to people in terms of aim training and stuff? Because I think, like I said, Turkey is definitely on authority on aim.
Yeah, just do your own thing, but like do it consistent way. That's the most important thing. Like even if you like, some people would say work for like 1 hour for your aim. No, work for 10 minutes, but do it every day. If you do it 1 hour every day, some days you cannot do it because of you have tight schedule or something like that, and you break the consistency. And after you break consistency, your brain thinks that, oh, I can break it. It's not a big deal. And 2 days later, when there's not a big event, you say that maybe I can skip this day as well, but you don't need to. And if you do it 10 minutes, maybe I should do this 10 minute aim training method and like do my own thing later. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, because consistency is everything, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's not just in your aim, but I also think, like you said, like in your VOD reviews as well, right? If you, as much as you can, of course, doing a really in-depth VOD review every day is obviously challenging if you've got a very tight schedule. But I think just as important. So, as an IGL, how much freedom do you like to give the kind of people on your team, the players on your team, to be able to kind of contribute to the planning?
Like from all the Turkish IGLs, I think I'm the most free guy, like, giving the freedom to my team because I believe that uh, if I tell everything, the team could only be at my peak point, you know. But if I tell the team that like give them freedom, our maximum limit would go above because they also add up. So that's
Mm,
the most
mm,
important thing. I also said that as a first thing when I came to the team, like you guys need to improvise things. Like when I give a call, let's do a split. Just add something to that and improve improve it.
mm.
I
What
don't
kind
know
of what?
if I could explain it, but
Yeah, no. Give me
uh,
some examples. I think I understand, but maybe for
uh,
people listening, for kind of what kind of things would you like? If you said okay, let's a split. What kind of things would you like to hear from your
yeah.
team?
Like if I could say let's do fast A split, and they would all maybe in our game theory in our playbook we had A short smoke. Let's say that, okay, in Ascent, but let's say I didn't see it, but my teammates saw it. They never play short. They they just abandon it,
Mm,
and
mm, mm,
they tell that, hey, SouchNi, we don't need to smoke short. We can use it on somewhere else. You
mm,
know,
mm,
that's the freedom I'm talking about. Like the way they see the game and try to maximize our win condition without taking bad initiatives. You know.
mm. Yeah, and also I think that they're paying attention in the game and they're recognizing what the enemies are doing and then feeding that information to you so that you can,
Yeah.
like you say, make the strategy even more powerful. When it comes to kind of allowing the real kind of Turkish style come out, how much freedom are you going to give, say, to your duelist to do those kind of things, to make those kind of riskier plays?
I mean, I have a keyword for it, to be honest. Well, well, like let's be honest. In some rounds, we need to be a Turkish team. Like
Mm, mm,
I'm trying to build a team around like a really structured team. A game
mm,
plan has a game plan, but like in some rounds, we need to play like a Turkish team. And
mm,
when that happens, I say to my duelist, go hayvanlash. Means like
mm.
go go seek for kills like animal.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
run, just run. Do everything you need to do. This is our utility. You just go kill.
yeah.
That's the thing.
I think having, I think that that's something that could really set your kind of team apart. Is that if you can be able to play the very structured kind of disciplined style in some rounds, but then just say, okay, guys, just go crazy, right? Go crazy in a like, okay, let's play together, go crazy, not a
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just do
yeah,
five guys playing ranked kind of crazy.
yeah.
Then I think that that's a real advantage. I think a lot of teams struggle to make that adaptation, and I think if you're comfortable to play very aggressive, and you can still learn to play the kind of safer, passive, kind of more methodical style, I think that's something that's a real advantage because I
Yeah.
think a lot of teams can't kind of switch on and off. You know, there are very few teams I think that can do that.
Also in
Mm,
officials, like the enemy
mm,
team wouldn't know that if we are playing a structured game this game, but or
mm,
we're playing the Turkish game.
mm,
They wouldn't know about it. That's what we're trying to improve on. That be be balanced about both sides.
mm, mm. I think that again and again it's something I've talked a lot about, but balance I think is everything, right? Because if you can bring that, it makes you in some ways it gives that element of randomness, right? So they can't know. They can anti-strat you all you like, but if your jet just comes flying around the corner with knives out, it's like, well, we didn't prepare for that. Oh no, we just all died. And I think that's a challenging one. So I've got another question. I guess we talked about kind of what do you want from your players as an IGL. I guess how do you think a coach can best support you? What kind of things do you personally want from a coach generally?
I mean, to to get into my level, like not as like this level, but like be in the same page, like I said, with the team. I want
Mm,
from my coaches to be understand my page,
mm,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like they also can have like another thoughts about the game, but if we if we are trying to play my game, coach needs to adapt my game plan and try to improve on that. Maybe I have a game plan, but it really needs work, and he tries to improve on that. He tells that, oh, okay, SouchNi, this is a great game plan, but we can improve on that. We can do this, do that, and back me up.
I think again, previous episode we kind of talked about this, where actually as a coach, coaching every single team is always going to be different as a coach, because it's much more about identifying what your players need to succeed and playing to the identity of your team, right? No team plays the same, as we've already said. So as a coach, like kind of enabling you as an IGL to call the style that you know works for you and that you understand, and then maximizing your potential, right? Really enabling you as a team to kind of play to that strengths.
I think it's all about managing the player group. Like coaching is literally managing the player group, and like know that who can give their best in what condition, and try to work on that.
Were you involved much in the kind of trial process of selecting the people that you wanted on the team?
No, like all the things happened suddenly, but I'm really happy that the way everything went. Like we didn't have like 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month of tryouts or anything like that. They just found us and we're in. And everyone is happy about that.
So from your time in BBL or in Fireflux before now or in SMB, are there any players that really stood out to you that were really good?
Right now I could say Turco. Like he always brings the mood up. Like when you have Turco on your team, the mood can be never be bad. I tell you that. And that's the most important thing. Like you can be a badass team. You cannot make great calls, you cannot make great decisions, but if the team mood is high, you can fix everything. I tell you that. And Turco is a guy that can bring the moods up.
I think that's a really important one. I think a lot of people, it's very, you can go too far one way. You can have 5 people that are really hardworking, really disciplined, but then when the mood goes down, everyone's like, we're all depressed now, and so there's nothing. I feel like especially in a Turkish team, if you want to play that more aggressive style, you really need to be up here, right? You need to be really focused. Your mood needs to be up. Everyone needs to be energized to kind of play that kind of way. I think it all kind of flows together in that way. So we talked a little bit about kind of like, I guess, your approach to the game and kind of, okay, I want to do this play or whatever. How much time do you spend even now, right? We've talked about, sorry, let me start that question from the beginning again. We've talked about a lot of the Turkish teams maybe don't have as much knowledge in some ways. Do you spend much time talking with your team about more kind of basic stuff, like how do you approach rotates, for example, and not leaving gaps, and like very specific, maybe, I mean, at your level, probably the exact timings of these things, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, those kind of things. How much time do you spend talking about that kind of stuff rather than just, this is how we do this play, arrow here, flash here, smoke here?
Like we in the last 2 weeks we tried to improve the basic stuff in the boot camp. So I had a saying in the boot camp that, guys, I know that you already know this, but this has to be need to talked, in the team. Like I cannot just act like this is talked in the team, because we need to talk, we need to set the base and build above it. Like I cannot just assume that you're at this. I know you're at this, but I cannot just assume that you're at this and try to go above it on that. I need to just set these things first, and they they listened to me, and like we did the basic stuff.
Yeah, because I think although yeah, we probably do all have some idea of those things. It's
Yeah,
important that right at the beginning, I think, like you say, and I think like advice to other teams out there and other players out there, that you all get on the same page, right? Like you might understand, okay, yeah, rotations are done like that, obviously, right? But understanding like the exact protocols to
yeah,
for that kind of thing. You know, one that comes to mind, I think, like Fnatic and all of their vlogs, they talked about strong side, weak side, and how you know you play a strong side and weak side. You play, you know, if you are on the weak side, you should play retake. Don't sack yourself in a 1v5. That's like kind of a hard rule to play for.
hmm
Do you have any rules like that you think are really important to kind of approaching the game? You know, fundamental rules that people should be applying in their game.
I mean, I have some, but like, I don't want to share. Like, we have a lot. We have a lot. Like, I told like my thoughts about the rules, and like I
Mm,
asked my players, and they also add up. Like, we
mm.
have a lot of things right now.
Are there any that you can share that you think are kind of you know more basic things that the people really should know?
Really, really basic. That like even if it's a 5v1, just don't give them confidence. Really, really
Hmm.
basic one.
So
That's every
so you mean
team
don't
knows this.
overpeak into them? You mean?
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. I think that's I think that's a really important one.
yeah.
SouchNi. I think that's one that a lot of people could learn. I think
Yeah.
people get it, but actually implementing that in game is often easier. Well, it's easier to say that than to do it
Yeah.
in the game sometimes.
Because when it's 5v1, is as an IGL, I even seek for the kill. Like it's it's so tasty. It's like you just need to reject it.
Yeah, I really want more of your. I really want more. That one was so big. Come on, you gotta give me one more. You gotta give me one more
Um,
that you
Let me
think you can
see what
share.
I could share. Let me see what I could share. Let's say that there's also another rule, as in inside the game. Like if there's a free orb, you have to take it. Like, you cannot just go past it.
Okay, I think that's quite a
This
good one
rule
too.
is, yeah, this rule is in. I saw this rule in other teams as well, which is tier one.
Mm,
Like this is really, it seems basic. I know, like this is, let's say, stupid to talk about in the team, in a team that could go partnership, but
mm.
you need to talk about those things. Like if
I
there's a
don't
free
think it
orb,
is
you need to
stupid.
take it.
I don't think
Yeah,
it is stupid. I think that actually, even at the highest level, it is the most basic rules that are making those teams play as well as they are. Right? Everyone can shoot. Everyone could throw a flash that flashes people. Everyone could put a smoke down that blocks people. You know, like they could do all of the basic, all of that kind of stuff. But those things make the difference. I think to add on to what you said as well, not just like I think sometimes there'll be that orb and there'll be three guys there, and the guy that's on 1 out of 9 will pick it up instead of the guy that's on 7 out of 8, and you'll be there as a coach being like, why didn't you give it to the sky that was about to get and you gave it to the killjoy that's just that just used it last round, and you didn't really think about it. You didn't think about that. Orbs is a really important one, actually. Maybe this is just an interesting topic just to go down, because I think it's an interesting point. How important do you think that fighting for orbs is? Because this is something that I've thought about a lot, and I think is going to become more and more important, because a lot of teams kind of don't build their strategy around fighting for orbs, despite the fact that you can get 2 orbs around at least, right? Where's your kind of thought process on that?
I think the game is built around the orbs.
Mm,
That's all I could say. Like
mm.
you cannot just ignore them, and you. I think I don't want to go deeper on that, but I think you need to build the strategy around them,
Mm, mm.
around the orbs.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Maybe I'm giving too much away, but I think a lot of people are quite clearly not building their game plan around the orbs, and
Yeah.
it's only going to become more and more important when we're trying to get at the top level, you're just trying to get that little 1% advantage, and well, an orb's probably more than that. It's probably more than a
Yeah,
1% advantage.
like if you look at as only one round, as only one orb, it could mean maybe nothing. But let's say you're playing Phoenix on Ascent, and on T side you have all the 12 orbs in 12 rounds. Okay, like
Mm.
you didn't get the B one, you get the A one, but you got it for 12 rounds. Okay,
Yeah,
and
that's two ults.
you this is two ultis without killing anyone or dying.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane, and I don't think many people think about that.
No, right? And how impactful those ults are. I mean, ults are so hugely impactful in the game, and yet people
Yeah,
aren't thinking about it. So it's definitely, sticking to our theme of advice for IGLs. I think is something IGL is definitely something that you need to be thinking about building your plans around getting those orbs, especially if you're playing something like Phoenix.
yeah.
How do you feel about Phoenix? Just out of interest, while we're on the topic.
That's the only agent that has six
Mm,
orbs. Yeah.
only one right now. Yeah.
Uh, I think maybe people would use Phoenix because of that, but they need to like I said, build their game plan around it.
Mm, mm. He's just, yeah. I don't know if there are. I feel like at least my impression is it doesn't really suit the Turkish style a lot of the time, because you really
Yeah.
want you really want someone that
Yeah.
can take a lot of space, right? That jet or raise, I think, is really integral. But then I say that it's integral to the game, the way that the game is played right now. Mobility is so important. Have you been watching much of the events that are on at the moment? Whether that be the Sentinels, was it Sentinels event, or the
Yeah.
or the Red Bull home ground? Have you had the chance to watch
There
any of
was
those games?
yeah, like I couldn't watch the Red Bull event because like it was really early
It's
when we
very
had
early for you.
practice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't watch it, but like of course I'm going to watch the VODs about it, and I think I saw some foot matches. They played really
Mm.
good in my opinion.
Mm,
Like,
it did. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Foot. I think I'm really. For me, they were like a team that I really expected to kind of like up and up and up from where they started, and I think they really have done that. And with their
yeah,
change in their roster now, I think that they're just going to be, well, I think they're the crown jewel of Turkey right now, right? In, in
yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, I think they're going to be an absolutely killer team in next season. Absolutely, I think they're going to be contending for the top
yeah.
spots.
It's not easy to win against DRX when you changed your two players in like last month. Like it's not an easy thing.
No, no, I think that it bodes well for next season, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really, really strong.
I
Is
hope
there any?
so.
Is there anything else that you saw that you thought was interesting in those games, like from an IGLing perspective? Any strategies you thought, or compositions you thought were interesting?
And there's some things that I don't know. It is strange to me, but I really give respect to that because how foot coach sees the game. Like many people would play Sova or Sky on Heaven and like play around that initiator because
Mm,
of the potential opening spots, potential map control, or
mm,
something like that. But in my opinion, foot coach guys can see the game differently, like not not in default way, but maybe in some comps you can say that we cannot do anything with this comp, but he could see it, and
mm,
like there was some comps about that in the Red Bull event that I saw with foot, and they did really well.
mm. I think that ability to innovate is really important,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, in a way, yeah,
Yeah, especially now as the game's becoming more established, we have to find new ways to approach the game, right? What do you think
yeah,
about
to
ISO?
find your way.
What do you think about ISO? To
And all of my team says that teammates says that it's the best agent. It's really good, but I don't think so. Like it's just a ranked. agent in my opinion right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there is definitely like people are either like she's insane, she's really
Yeah.
really good, and then there's other people that are like she sucks, like
Yeah.
she's really not gonna have much impact. Why do you think that she's not good?
I mean, I didn't like her kit, you know?
Mm.
Like the the ulti seems good, but it's a 50-50. And
Yes,
what
yeah, yeah.
what could I get with that ulti, you know? If it's a 50-50, let's say the breach ulti on Lotus C, okay? When there's a 2 guy in C on Lotus, as attacker, you ult with breach and you get into free sight. You get the round. Let's
Yeah.
say that. But with ISO, you ulti the site and maybe you die, maybe you survive, you don't know anything. Maybe there could be a potential in clutch scenarios when you are 1v2, 1v3 or something like that, but I cannot see more of that. It's a 50-50 thing.
It's a 50-50, but then I think it's interesting when we go back to this point about ults. But then it's an ult, right? Like that's a very small part of her kit, really. It's like whether you
Yeah.
think, because I think the real question is whether those shields are going to allow you to like take a lot of space aggressively, right? Because of course you can then play aggressively into space without an initiator. You don't need a reveal because you just face check it and you just walk with your shield,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I think it's hard to know. And I guess what about the kind of the balance changes that are coming? I'm trying to remember the name of the agent that no one's playing right now because it's so garbage.
Deadlock?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Deadlock. That's utter crap tier. But now with the changes, might be. Well, I guess what do you think? Have you looked at what the
No, I
updates
didn't
are?
see the changes about the deadlock. I
I can't
wish I
remember.
could play her, but
I can't remember exactly what they're gonna be, but they're gonna be. She's gonna be a bit less bad. But I guess it was just interesting because I saw some people kind of suggesting that there may be this real meta shift from what we've got right now, where you've got lots of people playing very fast comps, right? Double duelist comps, or just playing very, very aggressively because any kind of stall just isn't powerful enough to stop teams play very fast. But if there is a kind of rebalancing of the game to where people can stall on the sites, can potentially like divide the site up and actually sit to hold the site, that there may be this kind of shift in the meta towards those kind of compositions, for the teams that are like really comfortable playing that way. I think it's something that'll be interesting to kind of see how they kind of change the game. Because right now I think it's hard, right? Because it's really enjoyable to watch.
yeah, but about Deadlock, I don't think it's gonna be really great.
Why do you think that?
I also didn't like her kit. Maybe they could change things around that, but
I think there's some kind of rework. I think that she's being changed.
uh,
I can't remember. I don't think they whether they've announced exactly what it is. But yeah, you're right. She probably does need a rework because it's
yeah,
just not. Well, you just get walked on, basically, right? Is what's going to happen. You're trying to play a sentinel, and then they've just walked on top of you and you've died, and you've got no ability to stall or keep yourself alive, which isn't really ideal. So we've got about 5 minutes left.
yeah.
Is there any kind of advice that you would want to give to kind of final advice you'd want to give to aspiring professional players, whether they be IGLs or just kind of players in general?
The advice that I could give is embrace your weakness and know your strengths. That's all I can say. Like you can be really good at something and maybe you can be bad at anything, but just embrace it and try to improve on that and be consistent. Like I said in earlier,
Mm,
do
mm,
do the routines that you can do every day. Like maybe today I can do 5 hours of water reviewing. Okay, I can watch some demos, I can watch some things, but I cannot just make a rule that I'm gonna watch 5 hours of VODs every day, because this is not realistic.
mm,
Uh, just make it realistic. Make it that you can do it in the worst scenario. Let's say I have that really bad schedule at that day, and I can still do it. That's how consistency comes to the person.
I think that's so important, SouchNi. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. If there's anyone like you'd like to shout out, then please do.
I shout out to my fans. Keep supporting us. Like after my announcement, thanks for all the good comments, and yeah, thank you for inviting me to the video. Thanks for that.
No, thank you for coming, and obviously
Mhm.
best of luck. Best of luck for next
Yeah,
year.
thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. See you.